This is Mike and C, and this is another episode of You Can't Handle the Truth. So what are on our topics list for today?
Well, I figured since it's so popular and it's, taken the U.S. by storm and everybody's been entrenched with the Murdaugh trial, that we should talk about that for a little while.
The Murdaugh trials, yeah.
Yeah. So,
You want to give some background on it?
yeah. So ultimately this attorney, dealing with an attorney.
Of course.
This attorney was barred in South Carolina. His family has been in the community for many, many years. This was actually in Hampton, South Carolina. And fun fact, I used to go to school like 30 minutes down the road from Hampton, South Carolina.
Nice.
So I'm very familiar with it. Small little town.
Right.
Lots of those like that in South Carolina. Basically, the family, the Murdaugh, ran the town for years and were solicitors and legislators and representative people of the town of Hampton.
Which is not uncommon.
Best known fact about Hampton County is the Watermelon Festival. They have a Watermelon Festival every June, and there's delicious watermelon that come out of Hampton County. So
It's kind of like a
not-
Kumquat festival.
yeah. Kumquat. So Hampton County's not all bad. If you're ever near there in June, please go to the Watermelon Festival. Don't let Murdaugh sour the town.
Check out the Watermelon Festival, seriously.
But anyway, so Alex Murdaugh, he's a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
So he ended up
Yeah.
stealing a bunch of clients' money, stealing trust fund money, taking settlement money away from accident victims, and his own housekeeper died. There's a lot surrounding, lots of conspiracy, lots of deaths surrounding this family, which
Yeah.
is kind of odd, right?
Interesting.
But ultimately kind of where everybody starts with this is his son was driving a boat while intoxicated, and there was multiple children on the boat.
Okay.
One of the girls got lost and she drowned and died. Okay. And so
Not one of his kids.
another child on the boat, right? And of course all these kids grow up, all their families know each other. So temper is really hot, temper is really high, really unfortunate situation. And that's kind of where this all started. And so that happens with one of his sons. The town kind of turns against him. And then we kind of find out all these things that he's done with trust fund money, right? And the fact that he's taking funds from people because the victim's families of that boat accident, they would just, sue him personally. And so when he went to disclose his finances, there was some shady things going on. And the plaintiff's attorney who's pursuing the case for that
The civil
case for the
right, not the
victim's
criminal.
family.
Right.
Yeah, he's the one who's uncovered all this.
Okay.
So anyway, lots of background, but ultimately what happened after this incident is Alec Murdaugh's wife and son end up getting shot at gunpoint right outside of their dog kennel. So they have hunting dogs that they kennel and they release them when they go to hunt. And so they got shot right outside, and apparently he wasn't there at the time. He was back at the house, which is, a ways away. But
Right.
ultimately, he was convicted by a jury of his peers that said, "We think you're guilty of murder and that you shot your family." Point blank.
Right. So he's been convicted already.
He's been convicted.
And then he's being sued civilly for stealing money.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. Or sued civilly for the loss of that life,
Okay.
the loss of the young girl's life that was on the boat.
Got it. Got it.
But now that son who caused that accident on the boat, he was one of the victims who got shot in the face. He's Alec Murdaugh's son.
Right.
And then his wife got shot in the face too. So there's a lot of speculation as to, was he really truly guilty of murder, or was he just guilty by, just guilty in general, guilty by association,
Being a bad guy.
as being a bad
Yeah.
guy. They wanted to put the bad guy away.
Right.
And so there's also a lot of deeper things too. He had an opioid problem. He's known to be associated with people who deal in drugs. Apparently he owns some sort of island off of the coast of South Carolina. So there's a lot of speculation. My theory is I don't think he killed his family. I think that he had to watch his family die. And to keep his one son alive, he's going to stay quiet and
Got himself involved in a lot of bad things. A lot of what we learn in kindergarten, things that we can apply to the rest of life. Don't steal money from other people. Don't do bad things, right? I mean, isn't that simple?
it is. But have you ever represented somebody for anything criminal?
Absolutely.
Years of practice.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Many years ago,
you have any good stories?
I have a great story, but it has nothing to do with murdering.
Well, I'd hope you wouldn't represent murder. You're not criminal defense.
No.
But
But my law firm many years ago, when I first started practicing, was involved in a highly publicized case in the Tampa area, and I can't get into names because of the you just can't reveal the client's information or name or anything like that. And interestingly enough, I don't remember what the disposition of the case was, but I can tell you that it was a case involving a teacher that had sex with one of her students. So we have a teacher in her, I believe, late 20s, a strikingly beautiful woman that was basically soliciting sex and having sex with a 14-year-old. I don't know what happened, in terms of how it got to that point. I forgot. It's been many years, but it was highly publicized in the area. And one of the things we couldn't understand was why. Why did this happen? And this woman in particular, like I said, I believe she had a husband and they divorced, and the husband ended up going on a reality TV show or something like that. It was craziness. And she was just, this is what she was accused of. And I don't, like I said, I don't remember the disposition of the case, but it was interesting, when you're talking to people and they're sitting across the table from you and you ask them these questions about what happened, what were your thought process? How are we going to defend this case? It's very interesting. And of course, the last bastion of confidentiality is, we have left is, the client is encouraged to speak candidly with their lawyer because there's a confidentiality. So that's my experience with a criminal case. It was enjoyable, but not enough to have me do private practice.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I don't think I'm built to be a criminal defense attorney.
Yeah.
I like the civil world. The things we hear and see is bad enough. I couldn't imagine, having to live with myself if a client went to jail and essentially was innocent, or how, all the things that transpired with being a criminal defense attorney. But very interesting.
Yeah.
They're fun to have. Criminal defense attorneys are fun to have drinks with because they have good stories.
We have one in the office. We always ask him stories all the time.
He's got good stories all the time. Always something going on.
Right. Never a dull moment, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, anyway, so have you heard about the AI lawyer?
Yep. Just saw a little piece on it. As a matter of fact, just so you know, there's I think I would call it a test operation at this point. They're actually testing it out in the realm of the context of a traffic ticket case. So in other words, a real person got a traffic ticket and they're going to be represented by, is that what happened, or am I misstating it?
Well, I think, so whatever company has developed this robot that essentially, they're deeming that it can represent you and it would ultimately replace attorneys. I want to start out with kind of the easiest form of being able to go represent someone in traffic.
Right.
Because there's very minimal repercussions. But what I thought was really interesting, and we can talk about what we think about,
a
that's robot representing you in court. Right. But what I thought was really interesting was this company must not be made up of lawyers, because they said, oh, we'll pay for any basically any malpractice,
any screw up in the court case, we'll
pay for it. And that just made me, when I watched the little piece on it, that just made me holler. I hooted.
It's interesting because I think what's lost in this, and I always go on these tangents, and what's lost on it, I think, is that there is, believe it or not, there is this is a profession. It's not a situation where you can go somewhere and all of a sudden learn how to do this. You can maybe read a statute, you can read a case and understand what the words say. We don't magically read, but what we do is we have experience and we're trained, and that's a profession. And so what I look at it as, what I analogize it to, is a situation where it's almost like, that's wonderful that you can put in information and there's an algorithm and this robot is going to spit out the case law, how a judge ruled on a particular case, maybe knows all the statutes. And that's almost like having a law clerk, and I know, speaking for myself as a practice, I replaced my law clerks many years ago with research programs like Lexis, for instance, that does all the research for us, and so instead of paying someone X amount of dollars, we do that. So I think this is what I analogize it to. It's more of an enhanced version of a law student you would hire out of law school to come in and work in a law firm and do research and things like that. But to argue things, when there's no algorithm for how you behave in a courtroom. It all depends, and that's the beauty of this. It's like calling an audible in a football game. You know, things change. You got a plan, and then the plan will change based on what happens. You know, and that's where, I mean, maybe some smart aleck is out there saying, well, that's what we'll get it to do. Go ahead, that's fine, but you know, that's going to be a tall task, and I don't think we're going to see anything like that that's going to be successful anytime soon.
No.
And if we do, wonderful. I'd like to see it.
Yeah, this is a profession that you learn by experience, and so I think it would be really hard to replace with something like AI. It was really funny though in the piece, the host, the commenter, the person who was the anchor, if you will, was
the anchor.
Yeah, the anchor was like, "Oh, I hope they don't make a AI for anchors because I feel like that's replaceable," and I had to agree with him.
Yeah, well, you spit out a certain thing. I'm not saying that, you know, there's no offense to anchor people, but no, but I mean it's going to be, you know, every client has different needs. If a client comes in to see you and they got a particular case, you can tell them what the law is, you can tell them how it's applied and with the facts of the case. But what you can't tell right away is that, you know, you have to be able to take in the needs of the client. I mean, one of the questions I asked all my clients, we ask our clients is, ideally, what outcome do you want from this? Some of these outcomes that they want are things that they can't get. So if you have a robot that's programmed to do X, Y, Z, that's, by the way, you know, apparently put together by a human being, you know, those are going to be things that you really can't. I mean, people have different wants and needs, and that's part of why you have a human being talking to you. So, you know, they're talking about this in all walks of life. Baseball, umpires, I mean, well, same kind of thing.
It was also really funny, too, because they were talking about it doing, you know, being associated with traffic tickets.
Right.
And ultimately, like, you know, when you go to traffic court, the one thing you do is all you're doing is you know, like yelling or lightly talking in the courtroom. Hey, are you a witness to this accident? Hey, are you the officer that is on this cross court? And you have to do a lot of talking.
The social aspect to it.
There's a huge aspect to it. And then you have to do a lot of chatting with all the people who are there for this particular traffic ticket. And then you go up in front of the judge, and you're going to ask the judge for reprieve based on who's in the courtroom. If the cop's not there and no witnesses are there, you're going to ask for a motion to dismiss that traffic ticket. But if everybody's there, and then you're going to ask for them for no contest and adjudicate guilty. I mean, like,
it depends. It's a great
depends.
Like that we tell our clients to say on cross-examination.
It depends. And there's so many variables. Like the first thing we tell clients is, you know, there's so many variables. It depends on what insurance company you're suing, how the outcome is going to end up, how you're eventually going to get to the outcome. Right. Or if they're going to, you know, resolve it sooner rather than later because that's their normal state of practice. A robot's not going to do that. But the best thing was it tried to compare like going to traffic court with people to like then going to the Supreme Court with people. And I'm like, on a traffic basis? Because I don't think the Supreme Court's hearing any traffic issues.
No.
But the biggest thing about going in front of the Supreme Court is, you know, when you argue appeals are in front of the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
You're getting berated with questions. Yeah. You know, and like you're in the hot seat. Those justices are putting you in the hot seat. And AI is not going to be able to come up with those, you know, legal-based arguments going to be based on all the information that they can collect, but based on the actual cases of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be a tough sell at this point. But you know what? It's always good to advance, move on, and move forward and try to find things that are better for the consumer. And if an AI lawyer is better for the consumer at some point, maybe that's where we're headed. But I don't see that as being anything that's going to come out and be successful anytime soon.
Yeah, well, I kind of like compare it to some of these legal websites where they have legal forms. And it's great to have, like,
that's a good point.
You know, it's good to have legal forms. At the end of the day, if you've got something special and specific, you want an attorney to look at it. You want an attorney to make sure it's ironclad.
Yeah.
So
not everything is form-based.
No. Well, what do you think? Would you like for us to be replaced with robots? I don't know. You tell us. Like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.